Hey, what's happening? This video is about the new Sony camera being released, specifically the ZV-E1. This is super interesting because it's taking and borrowing ideas from two incredible video-centric cameras that Sony has released in the past. This one here, the Sony ZV-1, which if you're looking for incredible value and you want great video features, this is it. And the Sony A7S III, which is a true hybrid camera. And it gives you a lot of functionality in the video spec area, as well as photography, low light. It is really capable. You see, the Sony A7S III does things that a lot of other Sony full-frame cameras, which this new ZV-E1 is going to be, well, the A7S III, again, gives you features that a lot of cameras don't. Like if you go the A7 IV, you don't get 120 frames per second. I love having the flexibility, and I really need that for what I do. And that's what I want you to think about. This video, sure, I'm going to talk about some of the specs, but I think what's more important is that when you buy into a camera body, you really are buying into features that are going to really determine what and how you shoot, whether it's photos or video moving forward. And that's a really big deal, especially if you're kind of on the path to really getting your feet wet, really immersing yourself in photography, video. If you want to know what's it like, to peer through a camera with a zoom of 500 millimeters, or if you go full frame like the Sony A1, you're able to take a 200 to 600 millimeter lens and add a teleconverter and put it in crop mode, and all of a sudden you're shooting at 1800 millimeters. And when you're shooting at 1800 millimeters, you really want to have a viewfinder. And this is one of the things that the Sony ZV-E1, it won't have. And you might think, well, Brian, the fact of the matter is, for me personally, I don't think I really need 120 frames per second, and I don't use a viewfinder very often, but have you ever had a great camera, a great full-frame camera that has? Because until you do, and you've had it for a while, well, then it's hard to say. In fact, I've been thinking about so many of the videos I see, like Sydney. He mentions, I just sold this camera and bought this camera because he's trying to get the features that he feels will really help him move forward and create lots of great content. Or I watched a video from Tom Buck, and he mentioned, I was wrong about the Sony A7 IV. And he mentioned, when I reviewed that camera, I'd only had it a few weeks, and see, there you go. It's really hard to know just what you'll create and the features that are going to mean a lot to you until you've had a camera over a significant amount of time. And if it wouldn't have been for that viewfinder, I don't know if I would have really been able to get into that, because I would have never tested it out. And now last summer, I started getting into macro. This is an incredible 90 millimeter macro lens from Laowa. And having the ability to really focus through a viewfinder is so helpful and needed if you really want to do macro photography, because the focus is razor thin when you're so close to your subject. So this new ZV-E1, it may or may not come with 120 frames per second, but I heard it's overheating, and I knew that immediately. Like, I heard it might not come with 120 frames, and I was like, it's overheating, because this camera is going to go into a smaller body. And what are they going to do with that heat? Like, they got to do something with that heat. Shooting at 120 frames per second in 10-bit, glorious colors. At 4K, that creates a lot of heat. Now, for me personally, like, I could maybe go to a FX3 because it's got a fan, and that would be helpful because my Sony A7S III, it actually overheated one time, but it only overheated once, and that was shooting bees in the sunlight. And I don't do that most of the time, now and then. And I wouldn't want to trade an EVF, a viewfinder, right? I wouldn't want to trade that. I am a true hybrid shooter. And I don't want to trade my 120 frames. I don't want to trade my viewfinder. And these are the things that really matter to me. And if you're just getting started, and specifically if you're upgrading or graduating to full frame, you might want to think twice before you really decide on a camera that is so dedicated to video. Something like an A7S III that is truly a hybrid camera, capable of photos, capable of beautiful 4K, 120 frames per second. And yet another feature I haven't mentioned is the IBIS. Again, I don't want to have a camera that doesn't have great IBIS. I'm shooting with cameras that do, and that matters to me. In fact, I can't wait, and I pray that there's going to be an A7S IV with the new articulating screen from the A7R5, with the new IBIS from the A7R5. These are the things that matter to me. So before you buy that new camera, consider the various features that you will use. Consider the features you'll be giving up, and really be sure to make a decision that's best for you moving forward. Hope you found this video to be helpful. I'll see you on the next one. You dig?